Hello everyone, welcome to my page. In this video, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe, Part 3, we are going to learn the part The Age of Revolutions, 1830 to 1848. In our previous part, we have already learned about the growth of liberal thought in Europe, along with the growth of conservative groups of people and the revolutionaries. During the peace period, the conservative regimes they tried to consolidate their power in Europe. At the same time, the liberal thought minded people and the nationalist people they started to increase their association with revolutions. So revolutions started to break out in different parts of Europe to overthrow the conservative regimes. Okay, in different parts of Europe, like Italian and German states, the provinces of Ottoman Empire, Ireland, and Poland, these liberal nationalist revolutions were led by the educated middle class elite, which included professors, school teachers, clerks, and members of commercial middle classes. Okay, one first example of such a revolution was the upheaval in France in July 1830. To recall, from the Vienna Congress or the Vienna Treaty of 1815, we have seen that the Bourbon dynasty was being restored to power by the conservative regime. Now, in July 1830, it was overthrown by the liberal revolutionaries, and in its place they install a constitutional monarchy with Louis Philippe as its head. So there was a transformation of power within France. Once Metternich, the Chancellor of Austria, has rightly said, France sneezes, the rest of Europe catch cold. So here Metternich has tried to relate the activities of France that influence people in different parts of Europe with a contagious disease called cold. So for him the activities happening in France become contagious to Europe. The July Revolution, which was most commonly known about the upheaval of France in July 1830, has also sparked an uprising in Brussels, which resulted in breaking up of Belgium from the United Kingdom of Netherlands. Next was the another important activity, the Greek War of Independence. Greece had been a part of the Ottoman Empire from the around 15th century. With the growth of this revolutionary movement in Europe, mainly in France, the Greeks also started a war for their independence from this Ottoman Empire in 1821. Nationalists in Greece they got this support from the Greeks living outside due to exile in different parts of Europe, along with some other West Europeans who had their sympathy towards the Greek culture. In West Europe, poets, artists, they loaded Greece as a cradle of European civilization, and they tried to mobilize public opinion to support the Greek cause of independence. One example of such poet was English poet Lord Byron, who organized funds for the war, and finally he went to the war where he died due to fever in 1824. After a long war of struggle, in 1832, Treaty of Constantinople was signed between the Greeks and the Ottoman Empire that recognized Greece as an independent nation. So we could see the revolutionary activities taking place, war taking place, expansion of territories going on, and there was a change of conservative regime. But at the same time, there was another thing happening in Europe, development of national feeling through the use of culture. So the romantic imagination and national feeling. Culture played a very important role in creating the idea of nation. Art and poetry, story and music. So art, poetry, story and music were mostly used to develop the culture and express and shape the nationalist feelings among the people. One such movement that developed in Europe was known as Romanticism. It was a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalist sentiment. Here, romantic poets and artists, they generally criticize the glorification of reason and science. So they were not in support of the scientific temperament, uh, and they focused instead on emotions. Rather focusing on scientific temperament, they were focusing on emotions, intuitions, and mystical feelings. Their effort was actually to create a sense of shared collective heritage and common cultural past as a basis of nation. So their main aim was to create a nation state with common cultural past, collective heritage as the basis. One such romantic uh, artist or a philosopher was Johann Gottfried Herder, a German philosopher. He claimed that true German culture was to be discovered among the common people. He believed that the true German culture is there among the common people, which he called das Volk in the German language. It was through the folk song, folk poetry, and folk dances that the true spirit of nation, which was known as Volksgest in German language, was popularized. As he believed that to create a national state, a nation state for the Germans, folk song, folk poetry, and folk dances plays an important role. He started collecting and recording such folk cultures, forms of folk cultures, which was an essential part of the project of nation building. So, at various places, we could see the culture was developing a sense of nationalism among the people, creating a sense of oneness and unity. Another thing is that there was emphasis on the vernacular language, the local or the regional language of the people. And even the collection of the folklore created a sense of recovering the ancient national feeling. Along with that, they tried to carry on the message of the nationalist feeling to those large group of people in Europe who were mostly illiterate. We'll take an example here of Poland. To recall the Treaty of Vienna, we'll remember that Poland was being partitioned between the great powers of Europe, Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Even though Poland was no longer existing as an independent territory, their nationalist feeling was kept alive through music and language. Karol Karpinski, he carried forward his struggle of nationalism through his operas and music, turning folk dances like Polonaise and Muzarka into nationalist symbol. So in Poland, Karpinski tried to popularize the folk dance, folk culture as a nationalist symbol. The territory of Poland that came under the occupation of Russia. Here, the Russian language was imposed on the Polish people. Polish language was forced out of the school, and the Russian language was imposed everywhere. Okay, so therefore, in 1831, there was an armed rebellion in Russia against the Russian rule in those territories of Polish origin, which was crushed by the Russian army. Then also, the clergy in Poland, they kept on using their own Polish language as a weapon of national resistance. Polish language was used in church gatherings and religious instructions. As a result, the number of priests that were involved in spreading the nationalist feeling through the use of the Polish language were being put into jail or sent into Siberia by the Russian authorities as a punishment. The use of the Polish language was seen as a symbol of the struggle against the Russian dominance. So in this part of this Europe, we have seen that how people use language as an instrument or a tool to develop a nationalist feeling among the people. As the movement carried on, there was another great problem in Europe, the economic hardship, which resulted in hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. So, in 1830s, most of Europe has seen an economic hardship. There were many reasons behind it. In the first half of the 19th century, Europe saw an increase in population in almost all the parts of the continent. In most of the countries in Europe, there were more numbers of job seekers than employment. Population from rural areas started to migrate to the cities and started to live in overcrowded slums. Small producers in towns had a great competition, a stiff competition with the machine-made products that came from England. Especially, it was in the textile industry where in where the production was mainly centered in homes or small workshop, and were partly mechanized. So they had a steep competition with those mechanized products that has come to Europe and flooded the European market. In those areas of Europe where the aristocracy still has the control power, here the entire burden of feudal dues and obligations were on the peasants, the farmers here. At the same time, there was a rise of food prices. The rise of food price and a bad year of harvest, it led to the widespread pauperism in town and country. Pauperism here means poverty or a state of being poor. So 1848 was one such year of hardship in Europe. Food shortage and widespread unemployment forced the population of Paris to come onto the roads protesting. Barricades were created, and Louis Philippe, remember the person who has been brought to the throne after overthrowing the conservative Bourbon dynasty in July 1830 in France, had to flee. Where in its place a national assembly was proclaimed. The National Assembly proclaimed France as a republic and guaranteed suffrage to all adult males above age 21 and guaranteed the right to work. National workshops to provide employment were set up because there was shortage of food and lack of income. And so they decided to give them the source of earning so that there is enough of food for the people to survive. As France was always being like influencing different parts of Europe, here the same thing happened. In 1845, weavers in Silesia also rebelled against their contractors who supplied them raw materials and gave them the finished orders for finished textiles. As because there was a fall in their wages, their payment. Wilhelm Wolff, a journalist, has tried to describe about such event in a particular Silesian village. Here in this village, there were about 18,000 inhabitants. On 4th of June, around 2 p.m., the weavers of this village, as a large crowd, they came out from their houses and went to the mansion of the contractors, demanding high wages. There they were treated with scorns and threats. Scorns here means to be treated as unworthy of respect. The crowd here got furiated and they went into the house of these contractors. They started smashing its windows, breaking its furnitures, and finally entered the storehouse and plundered the supplies of clothes which they tore to shreds. The contractor fled with his family to the neighboring village, and within 24 hours he returned back with a huge army and controlled the rebellion by killing about 11 weavers. So that resulted in suppression of this movement. But there were such revolutionary activities going on in different parts of Europe. Okay. During this time, when this poor, the unemployed, and the starving peasants and workers were fighting in Europe, a movement was led by a group of educated middle class, mostly by the liberals. So, the revolution of the liberals around 1848. So, the revolution was led by the educated middle class, and we could see that in February 1848, there was a change of government in France. Louis Philippe Queets and the National Assembly proclaimed a republic and gave universal male suffrage to all the people of the country. In other parts of Europe, where still independent nation states were not created, like that of Germany, Italy, and Poland, and even Austro-Hungarian Empire. Here, the men and women of liberal middle classes, they combined their demands for constitutionalism and national unification. They combined their demands of being one nation and the system of government to be controlled by our constitution. So they took the advantage of the growing unrest and pushed their demand for creation of a nation state on parliamentary principles, which include a constitution, freedom of press, and freedom of association. Okay, in the German-speaking region, a large number of political associations whose members were middle-class professionals, businessmen, and prosperous artisans came together in the city of Frankfurt and decided to vote for an all-German National Assembly. Okay, here you can relate this incident to that of the French Revolution. In French Revolution, if you recall, the third estate representative in the estate general meeting quit from the National Assembly because when they demanded for one man one vote in the which was not guaranteed, and they came out and declared themselves to be the National Assembly and sat in a stadium to frame a constitution for the new government that they want to establish in France. Similar thing happened in Frankfurt in Germany. On 18 May 1848, 831 elected representatives marched in a festive procession to take their places in the Frankfurt Parliament, conveyed in the Church of St. Paul. They conveyed this parliament in a church. They drafted a constitution for a German nation to be headed by a monarchy subject to a parliament. So there they set up a form of government which will be under a parliament. They were drafting a constitution and trying to create a nation of the German people with a monarch subject to a parliament. When the deputies offered a crown on this term to Frederick William IV, the King of Prussia, he rejected it and joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. This offer of a king to be under the parliament was given to Frederick William IV, the King of Prussia. Remember, Prussia was the largest German state at that time. He rejected this proposal and joined other monarchs to oppose it. Finally, military was brought in. The parliament was dissolved. During this time of Frankfurt Parliament, the political rights of women was a very controversial issue. Political rights were not being given to the women just that like a French Revolution. So the women had formed their own political association, founded newspapers, and take part in the political meetings and demonstrations. Despite this, they were denied suffrage rights during the election of the assembly. When the elections were held to choose a new government, the women were not given the right to vote. Even when the Frankfurt Parliament was convened in Church of St. Paul, women were admitted only as observers to stand in the visitors gallery. Here in the picture you can see. Here in the gallery here as a visitor gallery, here the women were given the space. And but they were not given a part to take part in the Frankfurt Parliament. Though the conservative forces were able to suppress such movements in different parts of Europe, but the monarchs now began to realize that the cycle of revolution and repression could only be ended by granting concession to the liberal, nationalists, and revolutionaries. They realized one thing, that to remain in power, they had to give some concessions. Hence, in the years after 1848, the autocratic monarchies of Central and Eastern Europe, they began to introduce some changes and reforms in their system of administration, mainly in Western Europe. And there, the serfdom and bonded labor was brought to an end. It was abolished in both Habsburg and Russian territories. Habsburg rulers granted more autonomy to the Hungarians in 1867. So here we could see like some changes that have been brought about by the conservative regime. So during the time when the women were trying to get their revolution, there were a certain group of people who tried to support the women's. One was Louis Otto Peters, whose thought process were known as the feminist. The feminist word here means awareness of women's rights and interests based on the belief of the social, economic, and political equality of the genders. But there were many more, like liberal politician Karl Welker, who was an elected member of the Frankfurt Parliament, for he clearly has expressed his views in the words, nature has created man and women to carry out different functions. So there were peoples who have different thought process regarding the rights of the women, especially the political rights. So here in this video, we'll discuss only up to here, and we will be dealing up more numbers of topic in the coming numbers of